Hello everyone. We're going to start working now on Excel, working on what we would consider the first assignment. If you go to the Start menu of your computer, and we're going to go to Microsoft Excel 2013, and we're just going to begin an existing, or just a brand new document here. When Microsoft Excel opens, you'll notice that we have the ability to say we want to use a blank workbook, or that we would like to have other templates that are in there. These templates usually take a few seconds to come up, but if all we want is a blank document, we simply click on blank document, and in a few seconds we'll have the beginning of our worksheet. Please remember that there are several types of data you can put in a worksheet. You can put in text, numbers, or formulas, or functions, and we'll be doing each of those through this entire video. Notice, please, we have cell A1 that we're in now. That is because we're in column A, row 1. To get an idea as to how many rows are in one worksheet, if you press and hold the Control key on your keyboard and tap the down arrow key, you will see that it has 1,048,576 rows. We likely will not fill all those rows up with data. If you press and hold the Control key again and tap your right arrow key, you will see that it goes clear over to column XFD. Now, why does it go over to column XFD? Because if you return by pressing Control Home and taking yourself back to A1, you'll see that the columns go through the alphabet once, and then the second time through it goes AA, AB, AC, all the way through AZ, then BA, BB, and then finally it'll go all the way to ZZZ, or rather ZZ, then it starts AAA, AAB. So it goes clear over to XFD, which means there are thousands of columns you can have in a spreadsheet. So now, having said that, let's now begin to make what you'll need to be able to make. Let's do what things you'll be able to make your first assignment. I'm going to have you type Herzog Appliances in cell A1. Now, if you're in cell A1, you see if your cursor is there, make sure it's there, and type HERZ as in zebra OG appliances. Okay, and then you can click up here to click the check mark. That will keep the cursor in that cell, and it will also confirm or freeze the data there. Now, that's the way to make things stay in the cell. Another way to make it stay in the cell would just be to leave the cell by just simply hitting the Enter key, which will move you out of the cell, or to moving any one of the arrow keys on your keyboard, or the Tab key, or page up or page down. Any one of those things will exit the cell. What I want you to do is to stay in the cell, and I would like you to highlight it. Now, to highlight that cell, and I would like you to highlight cells A1 through B1 through C1 through D1 through E1. Now, the way to highlight the cells is to click in the middle of the cell you're in and make sure you see a white cross when you do it. You want to make sure you don't come down too far and click the border of the cell, because if you click and drag, then you wind up moving the cell. We don't want that. Or if you accidentally pull the lower right corner of the cell and get a black cross, if you then pull to the right, you'll wind up copying the cell. That's not what we want. We want to highlight that cell and the several cells to its right. So if you click on the cell A1 and then just simply get a white cross and drag over to column E, you will see here that we have selected cells A1 through E1. Another thing that you can do is you can click on that cell and press and hold the Shift key and then tap the right arrow key over to column E. Okay, now at that point, what we're going to have you do is center that data between columns A, B, C, D, and E. The way to do it is, step 1 we've already done, is you type the data in the first cell. Step 2, you select that cell and the cells to the right you want to merge it with. And in step 3, you come up here to merge and center. That will put the words between them. Now what I would like you to do is to make sure that the words Herzog Appliances are 36 points high. Now, if you've done Word or PowerPoint, you know how to do that. You make sure that your cursor is still on the words, and you come up here to the font size, and we're going to come down here to 36. Now, the problem is you'll see that the letters are scrunched there. So I'm going to click on A, drag over to B, C, D, and E, and we're going to widen those to a width of 15 characters. The way we do that, a couple ways we can do it. One way is while leaving those selected, we can come over here to Format and just simply click the column width. Then at that point, we simply type a 15 in that box, and we click OK. Now you'll see that we're coming very close to how you would do your assignment. Now the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is in cell A2, type the words, please, annual sales. Again, I'm going to ask you to click on the check mark, and then I'm going to ask you to select cell A2 and press and hold the Shift key and tap over to column E, and once again click Merge and Center. Now, at that point, in this particular case, we would like that font to be a size 22. So as before, we click up in the font size box and we click 22. Now we move down to cell A3. We type the word in saying store. We hit enter. We type the word, the state Illinois, as though we're pretending here we have a store in Illinois. Then in the next cell we hit enter. Hitting enter is what will get me to the cell below and will get me to confirm the words in these cells here. So we type Ohio in A5, then Kentucky in A6. We type Michigan in A7. In A8 we type in Indiana. In A9 we type in Pennsylvania. And in cell A10 we type in total. Now I want you to come up here to cell B3 and type the words net sales, or say, I guess, singular. And we're going to have you type some numbers in there in just a minute, but just tap the right arrow key and come over here and type in there sales tax. Hit the right arrow key again, and now we're going to type in there total sale. Hit the right arrow key again. This is going to be store bonus. So again, we're typing in text here. We'll type in numbers in just a minute. But the numbers are considered values. Now, we're going to go over here. We're going to type in a few numbers. Now, in this case, the first one is going to be 4,250,000. The second, do not type in the commas or the dollar signs or anything. We're going to type in here $3,500,600. The Kentucky store, we're going to say, has $9,800,000. And $500. Michigan, we're going to say, has $7,540,000 even. And then Indiana, we have $11,250,000. Now, if you do a mistake, you can simply click back up on the cell and just simply retype it, or you can click up in here and move your cursor back and forth and hit that backspace or delete or whatever you want to do. If you start editing in these cells, just simply hit escape, and that'll cancel what you've done. Or if I type something right here and I decide I don't want that, I can hit escape. Or if I hit it again, I can click up in here and click the little X and get rid of it. So let's go back up here, and we're going to change Pennsylvania now. We're going to change that to 6,600,000. Okay, don't try to type the total in yet. We'll do that with a function. Now, the first thing we're going to show you next is what they call a formula. The first thing after we do numbers. So far we've done text, often referred to as alpha or alphanumeric. It's really only alphanumeric if you have numbers with words, such as a house address or a serial number. But in this case, we're going to pretend that sales tax is 7% for every dollar of every sale. So whenever you start a formula or a function in Excel, you start with the equal sign. So hit the equal, and then simply type 0.07 times, use the asterisk on your keyboard, and then we're going to click on cell B4. In other words, this is going to multiply 7 cents times B4, meaning whatever is in B4 is going to be having 7% of that, in other words. So we simply hit enter, and you'll see it has calculated the sales tax for you automatically. And that seems like a lot of work. Some people think that that could have been done easier in a calculator. But actually, once you do it one time, then you don't have to do it anymore. Because you'll notice here on the lower right corner of the cell here, you will notice that you'll have a what they call a fill handle. And the fill handle here, if you place your mouse on it, you click and pull the fill handle, it will fill that formula all the way down for you so you don't have to do it each time. Now if you want to see what the formula says here, what you can do is press and hold the control key on your keyboard, and in the upper left you'll see the little tilde. It's like a little squiggly right below the escape key. So while holding the control key down, tap the tilde key, and it will show you what it has done there. It is type 0.07 times B4, but by filling it down, it changes incrementally by one row so that you don't have to type it out in each row. Because if you had 200 of those or 2,000 of those rows, it would take you forever. When we change it from B4 to B5, when it automatically does that, and that is the default setting for it, they call that relative address. If you want to turn off this showing of the formulas, then press and hold Control tilde again, and it will bring it back to normal. Now we're going to do another formula that is simply going to add those two cells together. So please go to cell B4 and type equal, and then click B4, and then do the plus sign, and then C4. Again, if you hit enter, you will see that it has added those two together. Now once again, if you click on the cell and pull the fill handle down, you will see that it will once again do the formula for you so that you don't have to type it for each state. Again, that's a very important idea here. And see, if somebody comes over here and changes these numbers, let's suppose I change that to 50,000 or 500,000, the numbers automatically recalculate. And that's the beauty of spreadsheets. I'm going to undo that and put that number back. So now we're going to type in the store bonus, but the store bonus is going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to come back to that. But what I want you to do is make it easier for you to do it what they call a function. A function is a very sophisticated or an advanced formula. But you've seen here how the formulas, I'm going to do a control tilde once more before we do this, and show you the formulas. You'll see when we put in B4 plus C4, when we copy it down, the relative address kicks in and automatically changes them so it will do each state for us. So let's do the control tilde again and turn that off. What I want you to do now is I would like it if you would click on cell B10 and then bring your mouse way up here in the upper right and click auto sum, and that will automatically sum the numbers up above. It is better to use the auto sum in this way, and that is what I'm requiring for this homework, because by doing that, what you do here then is you make it possible for it to do thousands of cells. If you set in there equal B4 plus B5 plus B6 plus B7, that would be taking you a long time if you had to add up several hundred or several thousand rows. So the sum function is what you want there. So after you see it, it always goes straight up looking for numbers, and it stops when the numbers stop. That's why it did not include the net sale. So if you hit enter, you will see that it has given us a total. Let's do the same thing for the total sale. We're going to come over here to D10 and click the auto sum. And again, it will give us the sum of those cells. So we hit enter. So that's an example of a function. A function starts out with an equal sign, just like formulas do. Then it will then it will have a prefix. The prefix is used just to simply tell you what this function is going to do. And then finally, you give the range in this case. The range and also in between those parentheses is what they refer to as an argument. But there are many other functions we'll be doing here, and the arguments can really vary, and you can often have more than one argument. That we'll talk about more later. So if you hit the enter key, you'll see we now have the total sales of all of those stores there. I'd like it if you would please now click on cell C12, and we're going to type the word goal. Just type the word goal there, and we're going to go down to the one below. We're going to type in their bonus %. Now when you click on those and select them, just like we did, or you can click on the top one and press and hold shift and hit the down arrow key, I'm going to ask you to come up here and make it bold, and then I'm going to have you align them to the right. And again, those things you do just like you would have ever done in Word and PowerPoint. But I'm going to have you come down here now and click on cell D12. We're going to change those numbers to commas and dollar signs up above later. We'll do that in a little bit. But since I'm only doing the one number for the goal here, I'm going to have you press the the dollar sign, and just type in there 400, comma, excuse me, that should be 4 million rather. I beg your pardon. Let's do that again. 4 million, that's 4 comma and 3 zeros, and then another 3 zeros, decimal and 2 zeros. I like it if you could put $4 million in there. And then for the percent, just type 1.00 and do the percent sign on your keyboard. Now, normally I would not ask you to do the symbols as you type, but the reason I'm having you do it here is because when you do them one-on-one, it's really easier to do it that way. But when you want to make a lot of numbers, like the ones up here, a different format in mass, you don't type them as you go. I'll show you later again how to do that. So now we're going to we've talked about text, we've talked about formulas, we've talked about values, and we talked about functions. But now we're going to do a very sophisticated function. This one's a little hard to follow, so you really need to stay with me on this. This is going to be called an if function. Now this if function is going to be incorporating two little concepts here. One of them is the fact that we're going to use the if function itself, but the other is sometimes you're going to want to turn off the relative address. Let me do the control tilde again here, and you'll see that the relative address is something that's nice. It does it automatic, but there are times we do not want it. So I'm going to show you how, when necessary, how to turn it off and keep it from doing that. So let's go back to the control tilde and put it back the way it was. In cell E4, we're going to type equal if. And then we're going to study this, so we'll help you understand it better. Equal if, let parentheses, if the net sale, way over here, B4, is greater than or equal to, you need to do the greater than and the equal signs on your keyboard. If, let parentheses, B4 is greater than or equal to D12, comma, then we would like to take B4 times the bonus down here in B13. Otherwise, we want a 0. Now, I want you to look at that and study that for just a minute, and here is what we mean by this. B4, if we're saying if B4 is greater than or equal to D12, in other words, if the net sale is greater than or equal to 4 million, then we would like to have the bonus, the store bonus, is going to be 1% of the net sale. Well, the net sale is in B4, and the amount, or the percent amount for the bonus, is in D13. But if they do not get a sale for that store, if the sales are not greater than or equal to D12, or in other words, $4 million, then it is going to give us what is on the far right here, on the right of the second comma. It's going to give a 0. In other words, the if function gives you in the first argument, the arguments are separated by commas here. Between the left parentheses and the first comma is a statement. Now the statement is said, and when the statement is true, Microsoft Excel will display in this cell whatever is in the second argument, and the second argument is between the two commas. If this statement in the first argument here, if this statement here is a false statement, then Excel will display whatever is in the last argument, and the last argument is the one to the right of the comma. So if we hit enter here, you will see that the store gets 1% or $42,500 in store bonuses. So that is how we do the if function. You'll find that the if function is very, very valuable. There's just one problem. We have to make a change to this. If I place my mouse here and pull the fill handle down, you will see that we get a bunch of zeros. Now let me show you why we got zeros here. If you do the control tilde again, you will see that we told it to go looking up the comparison for the goal in cell D12. Now, when we filled that down, D12 changed to D13, and then to 14, and to 15, and to 16. Well, you see, it did the same thing with the bonus percent. It changed the 13 to a 14 to a 15, and we don't want it to do that. That's an occasion where you would want the relative address to not be on. The default is for it to always be on, but it's your job to turn it off. So if you double click here on the D12, let's go back to the original formula, and if you click on that, you have to click a couple times there, or you could go up here to the formula bar. This is called the formula bar. If you come up here and click in there and then double click the D12, Then across the top of your keyboard, you'll see F1, F2, F3, F4, etc. If you tap F4, it'll wrap dollar signs around the D12. Do the same for the D13 because we want that one to stay put too. We don't want that one changing either. So if you tap the F4 there, it'll do the same thing. So now if you hit enter, and now if we go back and we pull the fill handle on these cells, you'll see that all of those D12s will stay put. They do not change to D13 and D14, etc. The D13 also stays put. So that way it'll continuously read the same cell, the $4 million for the goal, and it'll read the D13 for the 1%. Now just hit Control tilde again, and you'll see that it gives us the numbers we're looking for. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set the formats for all of these numbers. Now, I want you to see the difference between the numbers formats here. The first one they refer to is the accounting dollar signs. If you click up here in the number group, you'll see the dollar sign here will be for accounting. Accounting dollar signs have two traits. One of them is that it puts the dollar signs always in the left side, no matter how small or big the number is. The other thing it does is it changes zeros into dashes. Now, we don't want that in this case. In this case, we would like to have the currency without dollar signs. Now, let me just show you. If we click up into the number currency box, if you click currency, you will see that it changes everything to currency where the dollar signs follow the number. So if the number gets bigger, the dollar sign moves. They call that a floating dollar sign. But you'll also notice that the zeros are no longer dashes like they were a minute ago in the accounting. Now they are zeros. But again, we want a combination of this. And let me show you again here. If you come up here and click the comma, see, that's the accounting comma. It removes the dollar signs, but it does put the commas where they belong. But the reason we know that's the accounting comma format, again, is because it changed the zero to a dash. So finally, if we would like it to be zeros showing but no dollar signs, here is how we do it. Step one, with the formulas still, with the cells still selected, we click up in the formula box and we come way down here to the bottom to more number formats. At that point now we click currency. And when you click the currency, you'll see here that it says symbol none. We want to leave it that way. Now also in this example, in this homework, we may tell you we don't want any decimals. So if that's the case, you simply change the decimal places to 0 and then you click OK. You'll notice now that our dollar signs now are showing up exactly as we would like them to for this assignment. There really are no dollar signs, but it's putting the commas where they belong, and it's showing a 0 for a 0, and that's the format we're looking for. I'd like it if you would please now click on cell E10 and click the auto sum again. That way we get our totals there, and now our numbers are looking very similar to what we have on our homework. Now, a couple little things here. I did make a little mistake, and so I'm going to come back over here to the net sale. We're going to make that a $66,600,900, and that way our numbers will match what you see in your homework. We have only two or three things left to do now, and then we'll be finished with this first assignment. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a nice looking format for this. Now if you select cells A3 through E10, and again you can click on them, make sure when you click and drag now, remember you need to see a white cross. If you get anything other than that, you're going to wind up moving. That can cause problems. So get a white cross and click and drag down and over from A3 down to E10, or you can press and hold your shift key and hit the arrow keys over and then down. And then we're going to come up here and click where it says format as table. Now I'm going to tell you what you want. In this particular case, we want the medium 2 format. Now therefore we come down to medium and we go from left to right. There's 7 of these. Like this is medium 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is 8, 9, 10, but we want medium 2, and so you click that, and it will apply this certain format there in a few seconds. Before it does, it will ask us to confirm the range. Well, yes, indeed, we do want that range, A3 through E10, so we simply click OK. Remember, make sure this check mark right here is not removed. Keep that check mark there. Do not remove the check mark. So we simply click OK. You'll now see we have something that looks very similar to our homework. The problem is we do not want this little flange in the lower right, and we do not want to have these little boxes here. These are what they call filters. We're going to talk about filters later. So we just want to convert this to a range. The only reason we're using this table format is strictly for appearance in this example. Later on in this class, we will use it a little bit more sophisticated. So the only thing I'm going to ask you to do then, in order to remove the little flange here on the right and to remove these little boxes, I'm going to ask you to click up here and convert to a range. If you click convert, it'll ask you to be sure that's what you want, and you'll simply say, yes, we do. So you click yes, and now you have something looking very similar to what we want in the homework. Next, we're going to have you do a chart. Now, the chart is actually what they call a 3D cluster. Now, the way to do a chart, I'm going to show you a couple things here to be very careful of. Please don't do this part with me yet. If we just want to get the store and the net sale, all we would do would be clicking on cell A3, and we'd be dragging over and down to B9. Don't forget, you must make sure that you keep labels in there and the net sale and the numbers. Don't ever put totals in there, because totals will make a bunch of small columns and then one large one. It just really makes it look ridiculous. So I'm going to have, if we did this chart right here, then we could simply click up here to insert, and then we would come over here to the column chart. Now in this case, if I click column, you see, it'll give us what we're looking for. Now that works okay. The problem is, what if we, okay, so let's just put that aside. I'm going to click and drag this down and to the left by clicking the border. Click on the border and drag it down there. And let's click away from that once. What if we would like to have the store and the total sale? In that case, you see we have a little problem, because we would want to select cells A3 through A8, but then if we come over here to select D3 through D, or I'm sorry, that is D9 rather, we select those, we lose the highlighting on the stores. So the way to avoid that problem is click on A3 and drag down to A9, then press and hold the Control key on your keyboard, and then click D3 through D9. Now a couple of things, make sure you don't, as you're clicking and dragging down like that, don't stop and start again. You must make sure once you start clicking and dragging down, the minute you start down, you can't start again, or pause in there, because it'll mess this up. Also, you must make sure that the two columns have as many selected in both, they must be equal there. Now if we return to insert, and we come up here to the clustered chart here, we come up here, we click on the 3D clustered chart, you see once again we have the chart we're looking for. But this is now how we do the non-adjacent cells if we want to put them into a chart. Now the next thing we have to do, folks, is we're going to move this chart so it's its own sheet. Some people make the mistake of just resizing it so that it fills a worksheet. That is not the same thing, and that is not acceptable. So the way to get it into its own sheet, step one, you click, while it's still selected now, you click Move the Chart. Now when you click Move the Chart, you want to come up here to New Sheet and change that word Chart 1 to type in there, I think it's called Sales Chart, we want to call this. You type in Sales Chart, then you click OK. And in a few seconds you'll notice it makes it its own chart. So you notice we have this gray over here and gray over here. In order to accept your homework in your exam, if I tell you to move it into its own chart, I got to see those, or that would not be correct. You would lose points for that. Let's return for just a minute to sheet 1 now. And a couple of things, we don't need this other chart, although we could click on its border and move it around if we want, but we really don't need it. So if you make a mistake on a chart, just click on it and hit the delete key and it will go away. And then click somewhere else away from this and remove the highlighting. While we're at it, let's change the sheet tab. Double click sheet 1 and then type in there Sales. So now we have named the worksheet. Let's return to the sales chart now. And this time we're going to go through there and change the wall here. If I right click on the wall, I can click Format the Walls. And in doing so, you see, we can then come over here to Fill, and we can say we would like a solid fill, and we can come over here and change the color. Now actually we want the color to be that color blue, so we're going to leave it. But we don't want to leave the blue for the columns, or they're very difficult to see, so now we're going to change those to red as the homework wants. So we do that by right-clicking on any one of the columns. It doesn't matter which column. And then we click Format Data Series. Once again, we come over here to the paint can, and when we click it, you'll see the word Solid Fill again. So if you click Solid Fill, now we come down to the bucket here, and we're going to choose red, you see, and that will make the columns turn red, and that's what we want. If we in fact want these numbers over here to be dollar signs, we could right-click on any one of those and click Format the Axis. And now when you do that, you see you have to kind of scroll down here until you find the word number, and it's way down here in the bottom of your screen. Microsoft really hid that. So if you click number way down there in the lower right, you can then say, well, we would like this to be currency. You see, you have to scroll down some more now. When you click on number, then you have to come in here where it says category, you change that to currency, and again you can put the number of decimals you want, and now notice that they have changed to currency. Now the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is to click on sales, and we're going to put a header and footer in this. The header and footer is going to have your name. So let's go into Insert, and we come over here to where it says header and footer. And then you come back over here into the middle here where it says click to add header. Now see, this is the left, this is the middle, and this is the right. So if you click on the middle one, just type your name there, and you can put in there whatever the name of your class is. I'm just going to, like in this case, I mean this could be like whatever computer science class you have here. And then just click away from it here. Now, you'll notice that in order to see the spreadsheet again well, if you come over here to the normal view down here in the lower right here, if you click it, the header will go away. Don't worry about that because it's still there. If you were to print it out, it would still be there. If you click a print preview, for example, you go to File and Print, you see, you'll notice here that it will show in that. Also, let's go back. Let's click the little arrow in the upper left here. And we're going to go back to where we were here. That takes us back. Notice these little dotted lines here. Don't worry about those. So now all we have to do is to save the assignment. So we're going to go up here. We're going to click on the little diskette in the upper left here. Even though diskettes are well obsolete, we're going to click on it. And I'm going to recommend you save this to your desktop for now. So we're going to click Browse. And then when you click Browse, we're going to look for desktop. Actually, you don't even have to use the word Browse for that matter. The desktop here. Eventually you'll get the screen up here that will let you name it. So again, actually I'm just going to click, well, I'm getting hassled here. Let's click desktop here. And we're going to click in the box here. We're going to call this homework. And I want you to name it, we're going to have you put all these in one workbook here. So just name it homework and just click save. Don't send me this until you finish all of the homeworks for Excel. So that is our first assignment, hoping you've got it here now. And at this point, we will then start talking about the second assignment in our next video. Thank you.